Speaking with a resident colleague recently about online dating as a medical student and doctor, I realized there's a lot I need to tell you guys. Let's set the record straight. What's going on, guys? For those of you who are new here, my name is Kevin Jubal, former plastic surgery resident and current physician entrepreneur in the med tech and med ed spaces. Now, I had a conversation recently with this resident colleague who had a completely different experience with online dating and just dating overall in med school and residency. And I think a big part of that was him not giving it the proper chance and maybe not having the right mindset about it. So let's cover what I've learned over the last 8 years and what I wish I knew back then. I am a heterosexual male, so I'm going to be speaking to those experiences specifically. All right, so first, let's cover online dating. You have two camps. People either hate it or love it. It's vilified or it's glorified. And Aziz Ansari, in his book Modern Romance, he does a great job of explaining how online dating has changed the modern landscape. And I actually listened to that book on Audible as an audiobook because it's narrated by Aziz Ansari and he's hilarious, so definitely recommend that. The downsides of online dating are, first of all, paradox of choice. Because people have so many options, it doesn't actually necessarily make them happier. And this also leads to the second downside, which is people seem less willing to commit, because if one person isn't perfectly exactly what they want, they say, forget it, let me go find someone else who fits these other criteria that I want. So they're trying to find that perfect match because they have so many choices. And then the third thing is, of course, it's a little bit more dishonesty with, online photos, editing, catfishing, stuff like that. But there are some upsides too. So the paradox of choice also means you have a larger pool to choose from and you can meet some truly amazing people. Also, if you're busy in med school, residency, you're studying, you're working, it's a lot easier to actually schedule dates and meet new people, which you otherwise wouldn't be able to do. And last, it can accelerate your learning with regards to dating because there is a high frequency of interaction, whether that's messaging someone online or scheduling a date in person. There are much more touch points compared to other traditional forms. So this brings up the question, okay, is online dating good or bad? And with most things in life, it's a mixed bag. If you want to, you can actually augment the upside and then minimize the downside. It just depends on how you approach it. Now, dating, unfortunately, is somewhat of a zero-sum game, meaning for one person to win, it often requires another person to lose. If you look at something like wealth, on the other hand, that's not a zero-sum game. If I make more money, that does not make you any poorer. But in dating, it's zero-sum in the sense that you're competing with others. So if two people are going after one person, that one person can only choose one of them. And if you're less attractive out of those two options, then you're more likely going to lose those situations. But if you focus on improving yourself, not for the sake of online dating, but just focus on improving yourself, you're much more likely to capitalize on those upsides. And I'm definitely not a pro or expert by any means when it comes to online dating, but by focusing on this kind of principle, it has definitely been a strong net positive in my life. All right, so should you enter a relationship? Again, relationships aren't good or bad, black and white. Things are in the gray, right? Things are usually somewhere in the middle. And more often when you're younger, relationships can be a distraction. They take you away from your work. You get really just obsessed with the relationship. But as you mature, it's more likely that you can balance that relationship with your other real world responsibilities. And in fact, in medical school and residency, being in a relationship can actually be a tremendous source of support. Now, on the other hand, you also don't want to be codependent, where you need that other person to feel satisfied with yourself. You want to be comfortable in your own skin by yourself before you seek out a relationship. But then sometimes relationships can actually teach you lessons that make you more comfortable in your own skin. So we'll talk more about that shortly. Now, if you look at a game like tennis or public speaking or study skills, people inherently understand that they can apply themselves and then get better at any of those things. But when it comes to dating, they think it's kind of fixed. But dating is a skill just like anything else. And with targeted practice, you can actually become better at it. And this is a really important skill to develop because choosing your life partner is one of the most important compounding decisions that you'll make in your life. Think about it. Your partner is going to influence the type of person you become, the experiences you have for the next several decades of your life, your kids, how your kids are brought up, your values, your financial situation, a lot of things. Now, when it comes to improving one's dating skills, I think that experiential learning is much more appropriate and much more fitting here than traditional learning. Experiential learning is going to allow you to learn from your successes and your failures. And more importantly, it allows you to pick up other intangibles, like building your confidence. Whereas traditional learning, it tends to focus more on tactics, like the strategies like, oh, when should I respond? What should I say? Stuff like that. And that builds more of a facade rather than coming from a place of authenticity. So what I'm saying is, become the person that happens to be attractive rather than trying to be attractive itself. And this really comes down to loving yourself and trying to be the best version of yourself. And that doesn't mean, treat yourself to ice cream and whatever, because that's very short-term focused. If you really love yourself, you want to think about the long term. What's good for you in 2 months, in 2 years, right? And by working on yourself in this way, you're gonna develop genuine confidence. You're not gonna do the whole fake it till you make it. And rather than having to flaunt your wealth and have flashy watches and flashy cars, you're gonna actually accomplish things and feel secure inherently without needing to show it off. All right, now on to Grandpa Jabal's dating experience. I'm old-fashioned, okay? My first couple of relationships were not from online. So in medical school, I was in a relationship for a few years, and that relationship taught me a lot. Now, one of the things, so I have IBD, and one of the things I have to do every 6 to 8 weeks is get an infusion. I'm in the infusion clinic for 3 hours minimum. Sometimes if there's complications and stuff, I have been there for up to 6 hours. And it's just a very meh experience. It's not something I really look forward to, but it's necessary. You get some drugs that make you tired. You can't properly rest because there's constant beeping. It's harder to work efficiently because you're tired and there's constant beeping. It's just not an ideal situation. But my girlfriend back in med school was actually excited to come to these infusions with me. And that genuinely surprised me that someone would want to join me at these really crappy things. But then by doing that, they actually became something I looked forward to. It was like this fun thing that we did together. And then afterwards, after each infusion, we would go and get a meal to treat ourselves. Or rather, it was more a practice for me to not always treat myself like a robot and a machine and be like, hey man, you're tired, you went through an infusion right now, why don't you just have a nice meal, chill for a minute before you get back to, studying for your next midterm or exam. And the other thing is that it's just human nature for us to want to portray our good side, right? Just our good qualities and try to hide the negative or downplay the negative. But if you're in a long-term relationship, that person, they're gonna know you inside and out. They're gonna know you're good as well as you're bad. And then if that person still loves you and still values you despite being very aware of your imperfections and your own limitations, then that helps to validate that, hey, you are worthy of love. And I think that was a very big, important lesson in just self-acceptance and understanding that I don't have to fight and try to change everything about myself that I don't like. I can accept some of my shortcomings and understand that they're the two sides of the same coin. Towards the end of medical school, I was single and back to dating. And at this time, I enjoyed it a lot more than I had in the past. And I think a big part of that was developing more genuine confidence. And it made the whole experience more pleasant for everyone involved. So becoming more confident or becoming more attractive or becoming better at dating was never the primary goal. It wasn't the primary objective. It was secondary to me just working on myself. So to all the young guys out there, I don't want you to be focusing on chasing girls and focusing on the tactics of how to be more attractive to girls. You have to understand that when you find a girlfriend, your problems don't go away. What makes your problems go away is fixing your problems. And fixing your problems upgrades your life. And when I say upgrades your life, I mean every facet, every domain of your life, including your life partner. So by fixing your problems, you actually end up with a life partner who is a better fit for you, who is good for you long term. If you're not at that point yet where you're comfortable in your own skin, then it's much more likely that your pain body or other immature coping mechanisms are gonna be running the show. Now for me, dating wasn't a smooth and straightforward path. I've had ups, I've had downs, I've had really spectacular failures, I've had really emotional failures. And that's the point of life, right? The point isn't to have a linear, great trajectory that just goes straight and up, to the right. It's about the ups and the downs and enjoying the journey, enjoying the experience, enjoying the story. Oh yeah, and one last thing. When you go from med student to resident and then you update your career or your status, whatever it's predetermined, it's like med student and then physician or doctor, whatever it says on the dating app, then yeah, you will probably see a difference in your results. If you enjoyed this video, you'll enjoy my Dating 101 for med students and residents video. Much love, and I'll see you guys there.